Hey guys, this is Hee-Haw with Dark Moon Cards and Games. Today we are going to look at a deck that is a fun deck right now, but may have some potential with the addition of Vivid Voltage. So I want to show you as it stands now, and then when the new cards are legal, we may come back to it for some more games. Before I do that, I want to remind everybody of our 200 code giveaway that will take place when we reach 100 subscribers, in which the winner is drawn at random from all current subscribers. So if you like what you see, help us out and subscribe. Like I said, today we are looking at Duraludon V. Let's get to the deck here. Yes, poor little Duraludon V. The market price of plus or minus about $2 on TCG Player. I hope that you won't be calling him poor little Duraludon V after this video. So he's one of my favorite characters from Sword and Shield. Pretty decent treatment with the card. The attack is lacking. We'll look at those now. Let's look at his stats. Like I said, his attack, Gatling Slug, is not great. It can climb to greatness if he lives long enough, which is going to be part of this as well. Gatling Slug does 10 damage, 40 more for each steel energy attached to him. With those 3 energies attached, you're just looking at 130 damage, which is pretty poor at the moment, but it can get to numbers that are a little bit more interesting pretty quickly. Let's see, his weakness isn't terrible. He's weak to fire. It does create some auto losses, especially the way I try to run this deck. Basically right now, that's just to Cinescorch VMAX. And pretty much anything else fire-based, but that kind of seems to be the main one that people are playing right now. He doesn't offer greater HP than his steel competition like Zacian or Zamazenta, but he does have a pretty interesting ability. That's Hardcoat. And that is the focus of what we're trying to exploit with this deck. Hardcoat reduces damage by 30 damage, I guess, from attacks done to Duraludon V, which basically gives him an extra 30 HP. But the distinction between simply giving him 30 more HP and reducing 30 damage is pretty significant. I hope you'll see that as we kind of go through this deck, why that makes a difference. So Hardcoat reduces 30, and step number 2 in this process is going to be we're going to reduce it another 30. That would be damage done to any of the steel guys, but mainly Duraludon V, using Lucario and Melmetal GX's Full Metal Wall. And the nice thing about that is that does stick around for the rest of the game. Once you do it, you can do it on your first turn for 1 energy. If you can get that extra energy and knock off all the energy from your opponent's active, that's great. However, I think in this deck anyway, it's more important to just get that protection established early as you can. So first turn is ideal there. Basically, when the second energy really comes into play is if you're playing against something like ADP that usually takes a couple turns to get going. Knocking off that energy, especially knocking off that water energy, is pretty big. Using it against Eternatus is good too, because they don't have very much energy acceleration, maybe other than Turbo Patch in those. So that 2 energy Full Metal Wall there is pretty significant, because you might set them back for a few turns from attacking you, which is definitely important because that deck can just steamroll you once it gets started. Now that I've reduced damage done to Duraludon V by 60, I'm going to bump that up another 30 by attaching Metal Goggles. So that brings the total to 90 damage reduced from whatever your opponent does. Now, no Cape of Toughness is out there, Big Charm is out there, but I think this is better again because this is reducing, it's not just adding HP. So when you get to 90 damage, you subtract 90 damage off of anything anybody does to you and start to think of it that way. But that's not going to be the end of it. We're going to go one more step. I don't know if I've been numbering all the steps, but I guess this would probably be step number 4. We're going to scrub off 30 more damage of any attack done to Duraludon, or I guess to basically anybody else. This ability works just like Lucario Melmetal, by evolving to Aegislash. His ability Big Shield, like I said, does the same thing as Lucario Melmetal's GX move. And this is awesome because combined with Lucario Melmetal, that is 60. That's a 60 damage reduction to all of your bench steel Pokemon, and 30 to even your non-steel types like the Dedenne GX, even Crobat, other things that try to get picked off. Makes it to where, especially if somebody playing like Pikarom doesn't really catch that you've done that, they can try to do their big GX move and find out that your Dedenne lives, which is pretty devastating in that game as well. But let's see, at 120 damage all in all, that makes some of these games pretty laughable, which we'll get to the games here in a minute. If you think about it, I was just mentioning Pikarom. He had kind of a recent resurgence here in some of these little online tournaments. Full Blitz does 150 damage, so to knock out your Duraludon V, once you're reducing by 120, they have to hit you 8 times before they can knock you out. It allows your Duraludon V to take 4 hits, I think, from ADP, and I guess even take 2 hits from Zacian after they use their GX move to get their boost there as well. So it extends the life of Duraludon. Like I said, the sticking point there, I guess mostly is just whether or not you can get this Gatling Slug attack up to do enough damage to make him keep pace with those guys. Now let's look at the rest of the cards. Let's go back to the Aegislash. The Aegislash here also, nothing to just sneeze at. He's 140 HP, Power Edge does 130. This is your non-GX, non-V attacker. And like I said, we are only running a 2-2 line with rare candies. So you have to be careful about what you're playing against and make sure you don't need one of those non-GX attackers to get through a game. So you don't want to be cavalier about throwing those away. You only need one in play. The ability does not stack. The Big Shield ability, you can only use it once, or only one of them applies. So getting a second one is not super necessary. But if you do have to use him as your attacker, that is your only option. Now thinking that front right now, basically the only thing you have to keep your eyes on is, I guess, still Obstagoon, and then anything that's either playing Decidueye or Altaria, or both, and just depending on the decks there, those are really the only things. But when you set up all of your damage protection that you have in this deck, and then use Aegislash to fight with, Obstagoon and Decidueye in particular just bounce off of you, which is kind of funny because, especially when we talk about Decidueye, all these steel guys now have resistance of 30 to grass, so that's actually 150 damage that you're shedding off of anything that anybody does to you. And I don't think Decidueye can hit for more than just like 90 or 100, maybe with a belt or something. Let's go through the rest of the deck here. I got one Crobat, one Dedenne. Just for consistency there. Sometimes you don't want to throw away. I think a lot of my builds had 2 Dedenne. I've tried to split those now into 1 each of those guys. 2 energy switches here, which does let you potentially get your Full Metal Wall GX move off on your first turn if you go second. You can Metal Patch from something you discard and just shift that energy up to Lucario Melmetal. For search options there, we got 4 Quick Ball, 3 Communication, 3 Rare Candies. Really only need 1 during the game. Really with the combo of just playing 2-2 of the Aegislash line, does get a little bit of a pain sometimes to actually get all the pieces in hand. The communication helps that a little bit. It doesn't fix it totally. 4 switch is pretty standard. Turbo Patch, just another way to try to get energy quick onto a Duraludon V. A lot of times in these matches, once you get your defense established, you really just want to try to ride one of these guys out and just get as much energy on one as fast as you can. You can get this to where it'll one-hit some of the big guys, but once you do that, you are pretty much committed all of your energy to Duraludon V, so it's either win with him or lose the game with him. 2 Boss's Orders, 2 Ericas, just another draw option there. 2 Marnie, 4 Research, got 3 Metal Goggles. Throw in the 1 U-turn board there as well, just to give you extra switch options. A lot of times after a knockout or something like that, you want to send up somebody like the Dedenne with his 1 energy retreat cost, or the Crobat maybe. And U-turn board, nice thing about that is if it gets discarded, gets knocked out, it comes back into your hand, so you always have it to use. So that's something there. Not as good as a skateboard, but I guess an option anyway. 11 steel energies seems to work pretty well. Had that number in here for a while. I haven't seen a real need to change that. I think one reason this deck has potential is the inclusion of that coating energy in Vivid Voltage that removes the weakness from steel types. It does not reduce damage like the stone fighting energy, just because if it did, that would be probably make this deck pretty broken. It'd be amazing, but it would be broken. I'd have to admit that would probably be too much on that one. But once coating energy is here, I'd definitely say add 4 of those immediately. Just swap it just for basic energies. And just depending on the response to this video, we may revisit it once we get Vivid Voltage redeemed online. See if there's anything else in that set to add to this. Nothing really jumps out at me as an option there. Maybe there's something I haven't really looked at yet. So we'll take another look at that as well. But anyway, that is a look at the deck. And just to keep this a bit shorter and hopefully a little more watchable, I'm going to post the matches in a follow-up video. We'll see if we'll play a couple with these. So be sure to check that out. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And come on back and check out the games with Duraludon V here. See what we can do, see what we play against. Try to pick out some interesting stuff to show you. But for now, this has been Hee-Haw with Dark Moon Cards and Games. Be not afraid. Later.